It's the Longbox Office. The Longbox Office. Movies and comics. Longbox Office.
And now, the Longbox Office with your hosts, Matt and Sky.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt,
I'm Sky,
and welcome to the Longbox Office.
where we break down the past, present, and the future of comic book movies.
And this is very present today.
Very present.
Literally just got back from the theater, just saw Deadpool.
Mere seconds ago.
Yes.
We're going to tell you what we thought of it today, guys.
And just for you guys, we haven't discussed a word of it with each other
Yep.
since we left the theater.
Mhm.
So,
It was time to smell the chimichangas.
yes indeed. So, we'll get into a few facts about the Deadpool character before jumping into the movie. And, yeah. So, the character was created by Rob Liefeld, who had a brief cameo in the movie.
I didn't even see
You
him.
didn't see it?
No.
And Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza, something. Who gives a shit? Some dude with a hard name to say.
Nizak. I'm sure he's...
Niza or something.
Nikaiza.
Nikiza. Something. We're just going to spend 30 minutes trying to pronounce his name.
I'm saying something in just German and yelling. Like, Nikaiza!
Anyway, he first appeared in New Mutants 98, which was back in 1991. Never read that, but that's where he appeared. He's Wade Wilson as his alter ego. He's got nicknames, Merc with the mouth, all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah. That's the main one. His origin of like how he got his powers has changed a ton in the comics. As what I know.
Yeah.
The one I was familiar with was that it was through the Weapon X program.
Right.
But in the movie, that's not what it was. It was just...
It's like more or less...
Sort of, but it was clearly not the Weapon X program we saw in X2. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like when you first see the guy show up in the movie and like tell him like, oh, we've got a special program for you.
I thought it was
You're
going
like,
to be
it's supposed
Weapon
to be
X.
Stryker or something.
Right. Yeah, but it's just a group of guys that are making mutant slaves, essentially.
Just to do it, yeah.
Yeah. He's basically... can't die is his power. He can be just torn limb from limb. I think at one point he gets separated on a subatomic level and still comes back. Like, it's insane. He's got a few notable villains that I know very little about, except for one of them. Ajax is the one that was in this movie who's impervious to pain, which is kind of a neat thing to have. Taskmaster, who I always thought's a cool concept for a villain.
Yeah.
And Hit Monkey, which is a hitman that's a monkey. Not kidding, that's actually in a comic. And T-Ray is like his sort of arch nemesis, who's like basically another version of Deadpool.
It sounds like a rapper.
Yeah, it sounds like a shitty rapper.
Yeah, T-Ray.
But he's basically like another version of Deadpool. All right, that's all I got for the facts. So let's dive into the film we just watched.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
I always thought that Deadpool was, like, I remember seeing him in magazines and at the comic shop and just thinking that he was just like some Spider-Man knockoff.
Yeah, the funny thing is he's actually a
Deathstroke knockoff, which I always thought that too. I was like, there's a lot of dead things. Yeah. Deathstroke, Deadpool, dead, man, dead.
Walking.
I don't know. Walking. Yeah, but like, yeah, and they had the red suit with the black eye,
It does look sort of Spider-Man.
With the white. Yeah, and I was just kind of like, that seems kind of lame. I don't care. I've already got Spider-Man. I don't need to know anything about this guy. Yeah. And I never got into Deadpool. I've noticed in the last like 3 years, maybe a little bit more. I've noticed all of a sudden everybody has a Deadpool sticker on their car. It's a bumper sticker. It's a shirt, and it's kind of like become
a cult favorite amongst fans. And I think it's like
he's see his face at Hot Topic stores and shit.
I think it's like he's shown up like I think some people know him from the comics, but I think like he's shown up in like a few cartoons and stuff like that, and then people have really like sort of latched onto him.
I never really got it. I just never really got. I never really got the character.
It's just he's very one of a kind.
Yeah.
He breaks the fourth wall. He's the only character who knows he's in comics.
Yeah.
which is kind of neat. You know, it's kind of a neat
Yeah.
little gimmick.
Sure, it's fun. I just never really. I don't know. I just didn't identify with it.
Yeah.
But I knew that I see
not-
the type of people that do.
You're not a huge fan of Rob Liefeld's art either.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
I mean,
one
you
of
know,
those guys that came up in the '90s under McFarlane, and
yeah,
you know, they're all very stylized, and
he's got talent, but he's
he
obviously
likes pouches.
you know, and I thank him for the stuff they did for Image Comics.
Yeah.
You know, but when I think of like shitty '90s comics, it's kind of hard like to say how I really felt, but also say no disrespect to the guy.
Right.
But like,
it's just not.
it was
not
just
your
not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not my chimichanga.
Yeah.
And
That didn't make sense, but all right.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Yeah.
But
But you know, I started to. I saw this movie and it was awesome.
good.
It
I'm
was
glad you liked it.
awesome,
Yeah.
and I was so not anticipating this movie. I was like, okay, it's one of those movies that'll come out. Like, it was not far from being Gambit if I didn't know that Ryan Reynolds was in it, so I was
Right.
guaranteed to at least laugh
Yeah.
and and have a good time.
Right.
But I wasn't like chomping at the nails for it.
Yeah.
And even the trailer for these movies, it's amazing that they pulled off what they did.
Yeah,
Even in the
with-
trailers alone, because you can't show so much of what makes Deadpool with the gratuity and this violence and the sex and all this shit.
Right.
We got all the above in the first like 5
Yeah.
minutes. It felt like.
I just kept thinking because we saw a bunch of kids like going in and a couple with like parents bringing their kids
Yeah.
into the movie, and I just kept thinking like these parents have to be horrified at what they're watching with their kids right now. Like, it's brutal.
I kept waiting to hear like the footsteps of families walking out, going, "Oh, I thought this was a superhero movie."
It's crazy.
And they even touch on that briefly,
Yeah.
like Deadpool breaks the fourth wall a lot, like Matt said. And there's moments where there's an exact moment in the movie where he's
But I thought
cutting
this
somebody
was a
up. He's like,
superhero
you might
movie.
be asking yourself, wait, I thought my boyfriend said this was a superhero movie. And they acknowledge all of the wackiness. It's very tongue in cheek. But for them to pull off what they did in the movie trailer for a movie like this, like the fact that they were able to sell this movie
Yeah.
and make people get it even through a trailer is pretty amazing, because it's such a, you're right, it is a one of a kind. It's a weird idea.
Yeah.
And you either are on board or you're not.
Yeah.
I wasn't on
gotta-
board. Now I am.
You
2
gotta
hours
you
later.
gotta give it up for Ryan Reynolds getting this movie made. Like,
Oh my god.
it's it wasn't gonna happen. They butchered it the first time.
Yeah.
in X-Men Origins.
I guess if you want to say Deadpool was in that.
Wade Wilson.
was in it.
Yeah, in the first half, he's awesome.
So is that it? Like, by continuity
yeah,
here,
that's Deadpool.
that's the same dude.
No, because Days of Future Past, we discussed this, eliminated that movie from existence.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I don't know if they
it
were even-
eliminates that and X-Men
But the thing is, with the
Last Stand or whatever
Days of
it's
Future
called.
Past wiping the slate clean,
Yeah,
it was kind of doing it for the sake of the X-Men movies.
yeah,
And while this movie does take place in the world of the X-Men,
Mhm.
I don't know if they were doing it for the sake of like, oh, so Deadpool can
yeah.
work. So you could argue that, but
Sure,
it's
but
kind of weird to think
it
that Wade
doesn't
Wilson
exist,
himself is
that,
more or less.
that version of Wade Wilson doesn't
Yes.
exist now because this does.
They took the Merc with the mouth and they took away his mouth
Yeah,
for
it was
X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they do make a
disaster.
couple.
yeah. There's
jabs.
there's a toy of it
Uh
in one scene, which was really kind of cool.
This is my most prized possession.
Yeah, and then it was the Wham album
Wham
underneath
album.
it. For me, you said you didn't know what to expect, and you didn't have you didn't know what you were gonna get really. For me, I'm not a fan of this character by any means. I've never even read a Deadpool comic. I own one now, just haven't read it. We'll get to that later. But my expectations were really high. I loved when I first saw the test footage that came out 2-3 years ago. I was just like, I want to see more of this. This is awesome. And they pretty much put that exact scene in the movie,
Which is funny.
and I was was very happy with. I won't say that I was like blown away, because I was my expectations were really high, so they had a high bar to meet, and I feel like they met it. So that's enough for
That's
me.
you. It's weird now, isn't it? Like, looking back a couple years ago and being able to go online and see the leaked test footage of both Ant-Man
Yeah.
and Deadpool, and see
Both
now
of those scenes in the movie.
in those movies,
Yeah,
and I've
it's
already
pretty
seen the
cool.
films. It's weird. It's like time traveling a little bit, but
Yeah.
I there's so much good stuff to say about this movie. It's still so fresh in both of our minds.
Right.
So there's probably a bunch of stuff.
This is just going to be us like vomiting on mic, pretty much.
Yes, exactly.
It's going to be a blob of information.
Yeah, let's just rant and rave about what we did like. I'll definitely need to see it again to catch the other things.
I had kept hearing about how the opening credits were really funny, and they were funny. They just weren't as like funny as I felt like they were gonna be because everybody kept saying they were hilarious. So, but it was still it was very funny how it's just like starring a good looking guy, and a pretty
British
girl,
villain.
It was
and directed by some douchebag or something.
Yeah, it was really great.
I felt a lot of the jokes really hit.
Yeah,
a lot of the jokes really hit. There were a couple that I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, there are some. It's very Deadpool like that. There are some references that the references are all over the place, so you probably won't catch them all. So, and especially with just one viewing, and I think going in it a second time, you can really when certain jokes are coming, so you can like listen to the other jokes kind of thing.
I didn't. I think some of them were even improvised by Ryan Reynolds. This guy was born to play this character, like, without a doubt.
Yeah,
like he is.
I feel like
Wade
this
Wilson.
is like comics. This is the most faithful comic adaptation, not in the sense of like a direct story, but as far as the grasping the core of the character. Yeah, this is Deadpool right off the page.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
Yeah. They're like, I think some of the things that were improvised.
I think best superhero costume, most accurate, it's great. I love that costume.
And you could argue other movie costumes have been more faithful, but this one wins if nothing else than just the fact that the eyes are white, just like a comic, and like the eyes fluctuate, and it shows a lot of emotion, which is really cool because they could have easily not done that, but you wouldn't get the same inflections. Ryan Reynolds does a great job of most of the movie. Obviously, is spent inside of the suit, head to toe. So to have him be he's very animated, and he does a lot with his body language to execute the comedy too. Yeah,
I definitely agree with you that like I would say 90+% of the comedy landed like hard. Yeah, like it was really funny.
He meets the like I mentioned. He meets that guy that you assume is Agent Stryker. Or
Mr. Agent Smith or whatever he calls
him. He's like, sorry, Agent Smith. Yeah. And they make the joke a few times that he's Agent Smith, but that's something that I wonder if it was in the script to cast somebody that resembled Agent Smith the Matrix, or do you think it was a Ryan Reynolds thing? I think it's just because
he was in the suit.
Yeah, but he looks kind of like Hugo Weaving in a weird
I don't see that. He's the only thing I remember him from other than that is Galaxy Quest. He's in Galaxy Quest. He's one of the aliens.
I don't remember that movie at all.
Wow, that's great. Anyway, I really liked T.J. Miller, but I didn't think he wasn't. I thought he was going to be in it more than he was. Yeah. But I thought every time he was there, their chemistry was really good. Like him at the bar when he's like, "Oh, you bet on me to die," like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the world's worst friend. Yeah, you bet on me to die. Yeah, he was in about as much as I thought he was going to be. Yeah. And there's been times where I've seen that guy and I'm like, that guy's funny in just his delivery. Yeah. And he's just
very funny comic.
Sometimes I've seen stuff that I just don't care, but there's a great role for him.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said about Rob Liefeld was in that first scene when he comes into the bar. Like there's the big biker dude, and then the guy sitting next to the biker dude was Rob Liefeld, and he says Bill or whatever the biker dude's name, and then he says Liefeld, like, and then just walks.
I did hear that, but it was such a quick take that I couldn't even see him. It was actually him. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, that's really that cool. Has got to be the most out of body experience to just be able to have created
your character walk by
and physically touch you and be like and acknowledge you, and then that's in the movie, and then you watch yourself on the screen and that happens. You're getting laid that night. Doesn't matter how nerdy you are, but I think that's something else.
And speaking of laid, that probably must have been the most uncomfortable part for mothers and their kids is that sex montage at the being of the movie.
An actual sex montage. Going through the different holidays of the year. Yeah, everything down to Lent. Yeah, which is like not a holiday. Well, that's sorta. Yeah.
It's a religious holiday.
But man, and the woman they got for the movie,
Marina Baccarin,
she was so hot. Yeah. In fact, that I wasn't grossed out by her eating mashed potatoes out of Ryan Reynolds' mouth. I was like, "Fuck!"
Yeah, that was a little weird, but yeah, she's very attractive. The weird thing about her is she was on Firefly, which is a big hit amongst these kind of fans, our people, our fans. Not our fans, but you know what I mean.
We mean our people.
Yeah. Comic.
Because I'm black.
Con fans, that kind of people.
Yeah.
But she's also on Gotham, which is another comic book show, which is kind of interesting.
I just want to watch. Actually, want to watch Gotham because
she
of
plays
how
Leslie Tompkins, or I think that's her name. She's a doctor. But yeah, she's a really good actress, and
I just realized who she reminds me of.
Who?
Arrow's sister.
Okay.
Something about her lips, or I think that's what it is. This girl's way hot.
Anyway,
on to important things.
Random.
Yeah.
I actually thought their chemistry was great, and I thought like the love story was believable, and it wasn't like it didn't feel tacked on like some comic book movies.
That's what I was worried about. I was thinking like I don't need to see a love story when I go see Deadpool.
But it works. It really.
She held her own as far as charisma goes with Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
There were. Let's just put it all out on the table here. The inclusion of Colossus.
Yeah,
in this movie,
I'm interested to hear what you thought of him in the movie.
Done. Actually, it's the first time I feel like I've ever seen Colossus. Like the X-Men movies have Colossus in them,
right?
I guess sort of. But like, they never even. What do they say? Colossus, I think, in the third movie.
Maybe I think so.
Like one time or something like that. But I mean, Colossus shows up in the second movie when all shit's going to hell in the
on the freeway,
Xavier's school.
Oh right.
And he shows up. He's like, "What can I do to help?" Getting ready to be all metallized. And Logan's like, go, open the back door or something like really small. And he's like, okay.
He says, I can help you. And he says, help them.
Help them. Yeah, basically, he's just...
I thought you were talking about this movie. I was very confused what the hell you were talking about.
No. Yeah. For a bit, though, in this movie, I thought the movie was going to be flashbacks or cut away to an entire chase scene on the freeway.
I thought they did that really well, though. Like, the going forward and backward.
Yeah.
Like,
did.
I never felt lost. Like, you would think if you're jumping around that much, it might get confusing. But
there was one moment where I was a little bit like, "Oh, okay, we're still here." We spent a while going back with him, and then we cut ahead.
That you start with a part that's about. If you put the movie chronologically, the first thing you see is about half or 2/3 of the way through the movie. That scene on the freeway.
Instead of showing what the origin and then cutting to that. But
I thought it worked. It worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you see in the movie of Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool's crotch.
Yeah,
that gives you an indicator of what the movie's going to be like.
Yeah.
But the Colossus character, there were times where you could tell it was like it's computer animated. He's physically
clearly it is. He's giant metal dude.
But he's so broad that it's like there's no way a real human being would be shaped like that.
He's tall too. He's like 9 feet tall.
But
it's like Ultron tall.
If we're gonna get into semantics, there's no way a human being would actually turn into metal.
Right.
So, and he's not a human being either. If you want to get down that much of an argument, he's a mutant. But I think the character of Colossus was handled really well.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe the voice felt a little bit like
a little
too Russian and maybe just seemed a little fake Russian. But I'm nitpicking. I'm totally fine compared to what we've ever gotten before. There's one sequence which is pretty much towards the end of the movie. But that whole fight sequence where I think everything's going on, he's doing his thing, the girls are fighting, Deadpool's trying to save the girl. And I felt excited to be watching a quote-unquote X-Men movie. Maybe for the first time ever.
And we should say that this movie is killing it in the box office. Like, it has the biggest opening weekend of any X-Men movie.
That's mind-blowing.
Bigger opening weekend than Captain America Civil War. Bigger than Guardians of the Galaxy. It's crazy.
It's had a bigger opening than that?
Opening weekend than both of those movies. I don't know if it'll sustain
nuts. That's still.
I know.
Even just to do it for one day.
This movie is like less than half of the budget of those movies. Those movies are like $100 million movies. This movie wasn't that expensive to make.
Sure, you could say that that Guardians of the Galaxy was less known than Deadpool. I'll give you that. I saw more people walking around. It just one person wearing a Deadpool shirt was more than I ever saw someone wearing a Groot t-shirt.
Right, for sure. No, yeah, I didn't know
Not
what
the
the
case.
fuck it was.
Not the case now. It's pretty
Right.
much neck for neck. You could see, but for this to be for this movie the most obscure character you could think of, I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
it's a huge
most
success.
people, I think, the general
And
audience,
it's an R-rated movie. That's a huge deal too. It's the highest. I think I read that it's the highest opening weekend for an R-rated movie ever.
ever.
Any R-rated movie.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That is insane.
it shows you the time we're living in. The superhero is like at its peak right now.
Totally, but you. This is like
trying
the
to
most.
look up.
So this is like I'm thinking of in terms
The
of the
production
general,
budget was $58 million, and like it's
That's
tiny
cheap,
compared
cheap.
to.
But the
most
effects
superhero
were
movies.
all
They
great.
looked crisp. It's just on a smaller scale, which allows them to do that. Like there's
Well,
a
like
couple.
at
The
the end,
last scene, that's the biggest effect they have is that whole thing.
that's where all the money was. Was just getting that one destruction shot. Good.
Yeah, it's already made 282 million worldwide. So
I
That's-
I feel like this movie would be
that's
huge
over-
in Japan.
that's over $200 million over their production budget.
That's
so,
amazing. No wonder they got a sequel in the way.
yeah.
I feel like this movie will hit big in Japan. I don't know why. It just seems very.
That's weird, but
it's
alright.
It's a weird movie.
Yeah.
It's very it's very different, and in Japanese culture, there's a bunch of shit that is
Weird
kind
to
of
you,
weird
but
to
yeah.
us,
Yeah.
but it ends up getting pretty big, and and there's the sword fights and stuff like that. I'm sounding very stereotypical here. That's not what I mean, but
Number one all-time opening weekend for a rated R movie.
that's bonkers. This is the most obscure. I wouldn't even know this was an X-Men movie if I were a general audience goer.
Right.
One we've never seen really.
Except
Colossus.
they mention X-Men like 5 times.
In
Like
the trailer?
No, in the movie. Just
Yeah, but in the trailer.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of the trailer, like the only thing that made me go, "This is connected," is I saw Colossus wearing an X on his belt.
Right.
Most people don't know. They don't even notice the belt.
And I like
Or they don't go, "Who's the metal guy?"
I really did like Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I thought she was really cool.
She was fine. Yeah,
I
she
liked
was-
her as a character. It worked really well.
Yeah.
And the back and forth with her and Deadpool was funny. But I liked the blue and yellow suit she had, which is sort of
Yeah.
an homage to the old school X-Men.
Yeah. When she first had that on, I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
This feels X-Men-y."
Yeah.
I had never
X-Men-y?
X-Men-y. I have seen X-Men films. Never, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, maybe other than the moment in X2 where Wolverine
Goes
goes
berserk,
ape shit
yep.
on the guy on the fridge.
Yeah.
That didn't come out right. Other than that, I mean, I don't think I've ever really been like genuinely excited
Like an X-Men movie.
in an X-Men movie, yeah, and been like, "Oh fuck, this is awesome." This is like,
They've made good movies that had X-Men in them, but this felt like an X-Men movie.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It did. This is the most fun I've had watching an
And
X-Men movie, and you could consider it an X-Men movie.
Yeah,
It is.
obviously spoilers for this, but at the very end of the movie, I loved Colossus giving the whole speech about the hero because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And Deadpool's pointing the gun at the villain, and he's trying to tell him to, you can be a hero. Don't kill your
pretty
enemy.
pretty much this the like
Any
the,
speech you would hear in a
in a-
superhero movie.
or in like the back of like some 1-page spread,
Yeah.
like a Saturday morning cartoon of
Right,
the hero that
yeah.
comes right. That's by Timmy. You can stop forest fires by
Yeah, and then
That-
just blows his head off.
blows his
It's
brains
just-
out, and then
oh.
Colossus pukes.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty funny.
It's actually he pukes twice. There's a part when he cuts his hand off and the blood like sprays on him. He kind of gags it.
Oh,
in
that's
that
true.
Too, so.
Yeah, it's true. The money shot.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but the Vanessa character, she actually becomes copycat.
Yeah. I thought that's what was gonna happen at the end of the movie when
Yeah.
like she doesn't die.
I'm guessing that's going to happen in the second one.
Yeah, because at first I was like, "There's no fucking way she would survive that." Like glass case or not or whatever she's in, like she's underneath a pile of rubble, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that seems kind of
It's a
far
comic book
fetched.
movie.
But the whole movie is
Yeah.
a suspension of belief.
Yeah.
The entire movie, like he counts down 12 bullets at one point.
Oh, that was so odd. They like
It was
I
so
felt
well
like I was worried about that because the one thing I'll say is like for me, a lot of people were laughing at them, but like the jokes that I had already seen in the trailers like didn't hit as hard for me because I knew they were coming.
Yeah.
So, and I heard people laughing at the jokes, but I'm like, yeah, I knew that was coming. So
There was
but,
one that
but that scene I was really worried about in particular because I felt like I had seen the whole thing in the
Yeah.
trailers and everything.
Yeah.
But there was so much still. Like I had seen that shot of him like flipping and then shooting the 3 guys
Right.
in the head.
Right.
But I hadn't heard, the whole 12 bullets thing. I thought was really cool how
Yeah.
he did that. And I love when when the one guy, I can't remember which guy, one of the guys that shot him, and then he like wasted 2 bullets just shooting him after he was dead. I just thought that was
wasted
great.
2 bullets. He's
like, worth it.
Worth it, yeah. Bad to Deadpool, and then shoots another one.
Yeah.
Deadpool.
Yeah, that was.
He's like
He's
clearly
just so
nuts.
great.
He's like he's clearly unhinged, but they made
That's what he
fun.
said to the girl. He said, "My crazy and your crazy match up," or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, and you know, and because in the comics he's had plenty of opportunities to like join up with the X-Men.
Yeah,
or like he wants to.
Yeah,
and
in the comics it's different. In the movie, he's like, "I don't want to join your boy band" or whatever.
Yeah,
and he keeps like saying that he doesn't want to be a hero. But in the comics, he's like trying to become an X-Men, but they don't want him. They keep turning him down.
And this movie is the reverse of it. There are many references. They pretty much are like
trying to
telling the audience,
be nice. Yeah,
yeah, like don't worry, if this movie is a hit, you'll see more Deadpool and X-Men movies because they keep saying like, you can join our X-Men team and be a hero.
Yeah, I heard a sort of a theory which I really like, and I hope this ties in because Hugh Jackman is supposed to be having his last Wolverine movie, and it's supposed to be the last time he's playing Wolverine. So they were saying it could be sort of that Deadpool becomes the Wolverine character where he can show up in the different movies and sort of connect everything, and that would be a cool character because he doesn't have to be the center of like an actual X-Men movie.
Yeah.
But he can still show up and then still have his own solo movies.
You know what? And that sounds completely ridiculous until you see that these numbers don't lie. And the movie's putting up these numbers. It's the biggest X-Men movie yet.
The next,
it's like, put him in every
Deadpool
movie.
I bet you it's got $100 million budget. Like, they're going to give him money.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I don't... the thing is... I don't, in the tone of the X-Men movies that they've built thus far over the past 15, 16 years, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't see how that works by having Deadpool in it, even if it is for a cameo.
Well,
it seems very like its own thing.
I think it'll work, but I think what'll happen is you'll get an X-Force movie eventually. And then Deadpool will be in that. And I think it'll be an R-rated version of an X-Men movie.
Well, aren't they doing like some kind of... They're working on an X-Force movie. They're working on a New Mutants movie. Somebody's
working on a New Mutants
Somebody's working on it.
Show or a movie, yeah, I'm not sure. But
I don't know how far along that is. I know there was like this
Deadpool's gonna
Justice
be
League
in
Dark
something,
movie that was supposed to
Well,
happen.
that's DC.
And that may never happen.
No,
right?
I don't think it's happening
It could be as far along as that, just be a script sitting in someone's office. But last I heard, they were trying to put together a New Mutants movie.
They're going to find a way to get Deadpool in more movies. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely, yeah. They even acknowledge that there's going to be a sequel in the end credits.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they actually got it. It's a lot like Guardians. That like right before Guardians premiered, it got greenlit for a sequel, and the same thing happened with Deadpool. Like right before it opened, it was like, yep, we're doing a sequel.
Yeah. Do you think that they just
they just know,
went with it, or do you think that they got greenlit?
When it gets that close and all the critics are giving it high praises and everything, they're very confident in what the movie's going to do. And I don't know if they thought it was going to do this, but
I was wondering if that was something they had enough time to shoot separately.
Well, they may have shot that. I think
as a tag on.
I think when the critics saw it, I don't think that post credit scene was there. So I think it may have been sort of an Avengers shawarma kind of thing where they did it later.
Because
honestly, I thought that was fine, but I was kind of disappointed with the end credit. What I wanted was a scene with him and Wolverine, and that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
and we didn't get that, so that was a little disappointing.
What
would be fun is if they do a post-credit scene on Wolverine 3 and have Deadpool in it. That would be cool. Because I don't necessarily want to see Deadpool in that movie necessarily. I don't know. Because I feel like he would take away from Wolverine. But if he's in the post-credit scene, I'm cool with that, and that would be awesome.
He could be the new end credits guy that just shows up. He could be like
all the Fox movies.
Yeah, whereas in the Marvel movies they have the Avengers thing. It's like something. He's like
he did reference
Sam Jackson.
that. Yeah.
He did. He totally on the
great.
nose was like, "Oh, we were expecting Sam Jackson to
show up in an eye patch."
Yeah, that's something that could work. Because I did get the feeling that maybe it even goes black the end credit scene goes black,
Yeah,
and then it comes back to, one more thing I can tell you.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been surprised if they got greenlit for a sequel, and then we're like, okay, well, let's tag
Maybe.
this on.
I thought that was kind of like I wish there would have been a scene with Wolverine and then that at the end.
Yeah.
Because I liked the you're still here? Go home. It's over. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Which was
Because that's totally
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That
Right.
whole thing,
Right.
Like down to
But
the robe.
But I mean, it's so much. It's great for a comic book movie just because it's like they know everybody's gonna stay.
Yeah.
So that it's just a perfect setup for that.
It truly
that joke.
Why would he be wearing a robe? Like, it's clearly a Ferris Bueller's Day Off
Yeah,
thing.
that's
And he referenced it. He goes, "Chicka."
Yeah.
So he's aware of that.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking he's in a costume already, wearing a robe, and it's
Right.
like it embraces the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah, for sure.
In Wolverine 3, that would be great. Is if
Yeah.
in the end credit scene, in this movie they make reference to Hugh Jackman a couple times.
Yeah.
He even references the Wolverine Origins movie.
Oh, and no, he said in the very beginning he even references it where he's like, you got to be asking yourself whose balls did I have to stroke or whatever to get my own movie, and then he says it's somebody really important that's names rhymes with Bulverine or something like that, and then he makes like an Australian joke which was hilarious.
He's got the thunder down under or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, you're thinking that when the love interest rips off Deadpool's mask, that his face is all mangled
That's what
up.
I thought it was.
Yeah,
too.
I think you're supposed to think,
Yeah.
oh my god, his face is just turned to confetti.
Yeah.
And then you see the front, and he's got a stapled on cut out of
even before
Hugh
that though,
Jackman's
like
face.
when he's loading up all the weapons, he throws in a People magazine that is Sexiest Man Alive, and it's Hugh Jackman on the cover.
Yeah, so he must have been planning that the entire time.
Yeah. Well, and I just thought it was funny because it's the Wolverine thing, but
that's that would be a prime place to like address it even further.
Yeah.
At the end of a Wolverine movie, have Wade show up.
Just to have them,
what would they
be
do?
smart asses.
What would they do? Like they're at a bar or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of.
It could
sort
be
of
at
like
TJ Miller's bar in this movie.
It could sort of be like the scene in First Class when they come in to try to talk to Wolverine, kind of thing. But it's just them at a bar talking. I would be totally cool with that.
Logan shows up. TJ Miller's like, "What'll it be?" And he's like, "Give me a Bud Light." And all of a sudden, Wade Wilson shows up right next to him.
Or it'll be something like Wolverine, like it would just be like him saying something to Deadpool, pissing off Wolverine, and getting him to use his claws on him, and then just making some other dumb comment afterwards because it's not gonna, kill him.
Yeah,
it would be great.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I really liked the villain in this movie. I thought the guy who played Ajax, Ed Skrein, he did a really good job.
He kept reminding me of
he was an
Vision.
asshole, and just because he's British.
He was a handsome British bald man.
Yeah.
He just seems like Vision, Paul Bettany a little bit, or like he'd be a briefs model.
He was just in the shitty Transporter remake that did terrible. But he was really good in this. I bought him as a just giant asshole.
Yeah.
And I loved the whole Francis thing that he kept calling him Francis the whole time. And the joke that he got his name from dishwasher soap. Or
Ajax,
yeah. Dish soap.
Only in a movie like this could there be, he kept saying like, "What's my name?" What's my name to Deadpool. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to spell it out for you." And then 10 minutes later, we actually see him like yoo-hoo up to him, waving like kiddishly, and all of his henchmen are on the ground dead, spelling out his name, Francis.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was
what other movie could that work? I thought it was
either going to be that or spelled out in blood, so I didn't know which one, but that was great.
I didn't see that coming, but that was a really great moment.
Yeah.
And cool for him to be able to play the straight man. He does play an intimidating, confident villain the entire time. But he's a dude.
Yeah.
That's not true. I guess he does have like enhanced.
Well, yeah, it's weird. It said he didn't have enhanced strength. He said what he had his reflexes were enhanced, and that he can't feel pain. The weird thing was in that first scene, he like lifts that guy up off the ground. Like he's just that strong normally.
Yeah,
like, that's
I was
a little weird.
I was like, that is it. I
mean, it's a comic book movie, so I bought it. But
he's strong enough to where it's like he still keeps his cool talking up to him, and it's like he's
and he's holding him one hand just above his head.
It's like, I'm gonna, you better not mess with me.
And I love that thing, the line when he lets him go. He's like, "Fucking mutants" or whatever he said. Like,
that's like the thing that in every X-Men movie that the person turns away saying, or that's probably what Professor X hears everybody say all the time in his head.
There are just so many like little jokes that I like remember as I'm thinking about it, and it's just like when Colossus.
Are you thinking of what I'm thinking?
When Colossus breaks his hands and he like turns around, his hands are like this. And he's like this, or something like the T-Rex was the king of the dinosaurs.
Or like why were the dinosaurs afraid of the T-Rex?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line, but it was like so great.
Speaking of Professor X. Loved the little joke that it took me a second to even catch, but
you mean I had to tell you?
Yeah, I was like, what did he say? It was something like I heard the tail end of it. Yeah, but it's so good. He said like,
he said we're gonna go see Professor Xavier.
Colossus tells
to Deadpool
that they're gonna see the professor.
He said, and then he says, "Which one, Stewart or McAvoy? I can never keep up with this continuity."
Yeah,
which is just such a great line.
So funny and so self-aware.
Fun at it, yeah.
And then. Being at the actual mansion, at Professor X's mansion, and when he knocks on the door, and then he's getting them to come with him, and he's like, "It's funny, I only see 2 of you there. It's such a big house." Or whatever. He's like, "It's almost like the studio didn't have money for a third X-Men or something like that." You're the only 2 X-Men the studio could afford.
It's just this huge mansion, and they're the only ones there. I thought it was weird in the sense because I mean, I guess in the comics, Colossus is pretty much Colossus all the time. But I guess I was kind of just used to it in the last couple movies, how he was like able to
power down,
change into a human. Like I guess he kind of does that in some versions of the comics.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was weird to see him like eating cereal as like
it was
a giant metal dude.
Yeah.
And then when he was in the taxi, he's like just drinking out of the cup, and he's like too tall for the.
I think it's also because you're aware that Colossus is going to be in this movie, and the only thing we've seen him do is walk cool in slow motion. The first thing you see of him in the movie is a frame of him just eating cereal.
Yeah, it's very weird.
I think that is something that throws you off too.
Yeah, but it's totally fits with the tone of this movie.
Yeah.
Did you expect that he was going to be in it that much? Because I didn't.
No. No.
Yeah.
And in fact, I thought, like you were saying, T.J. Miller wasn't in the movie as much as you thought. T.J. Miller was in the movie about as much as I thought Negasonic Teenage Warhead was going to be in the movie. They built it up to me like. At least in the production, it seemed like she was always with Deadpool, and she was going to be like the straight character
I
to
thought
his.
She was with Colossus, so.
Yeah, but they were both. Yeah, it was almost like a trio movie.
Especially that last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah,
and I love that they get all out of the car and they're just about to march into the bad guy's lair, and then he realizes he forgot his bag of guns in the taxi cab.
Yeah.
And he's
does
just
it
like,
twice.
shit.
Doesn't he do it twice? Doesn't he forget his gun bag twice?
No.
The first time around, he's like, oh, and they have 12 bullets in one gun. And the second time, you just see him making the phone call. It's cool.
He brings all these, there's a whole scene of them, like, putting all the guns together, and then he forgets them in the car.
He leaves them.
In a Hello Kitty bag, too.
And whatever happened to the cab driver? Did we ever find out?
He just got in a car accident.
That's it.
Yeah.
We never find out what happens to the guy that's in his trunk.
Yeah, who got that trunk was crushed. That guy would have been
that guy was Deadpool. Dead in a pool of blood.
I like that how he got the name. I thought that was clever.
That was cool. Yeah. I don't know.
Captain Deadpool. No, just Deadpool.
That was funny. There's a moment in the movie where Deadpool just looks up, and there's this it's the moment in the movie where you're expecting, this is where he's gonna get his name.
Yeah.
And he goes, Deadpool. He reads it off the board, and then Captain Deadpool. No, okay, that's not as cool. That's just Deadpool. It's pretty funny. It was.
I like the scene, the sort of montage scene of that action where he's he finally gets a suit and goes through it a couple times, but he just keeps killing all these guys, and he just keeps yelling, "Where's Francis?" While he's killing all of them. That's just, where's your boss? Where's Francis? And he just keeps murdering
almost
people.
in a more outward Luke Cage kind of way, getting smacked in the back of the head a bottle and it shatters and he just looks irritated.
Yeah.
It's almost that to an extreme.
Right.
Like, I'm just I'm knocking over the cards while I'm looking for this guy.
Yeah, and I liked when he caught up to the Agent Smith guy.
Yeah.
And because before he'd said, he was special ops and he'd killed 41 people. He's like, yeah, killed 41 people. And he's like, now it's 89, about to be 90. He's just about to kill the guy.
Yeah.
It's like, in that short time, he went from 41 kills to 89.
Yeah.
Like,
I think with Deadpool makes that joke about it being like maybe they were the only two X-Men characters the studio could afford.
Yeah.
And I wondered, I was like, well, that could be maybe kind of accurate. I don't know about Colossus. Then again, they haven't done much with Colossus and any of the options they've had at the movies. They've never done anything with Negasonic and Warhead.
It's more about like all those actors are already cast, so you'd have to pay the actor was kind of the joke that, you're not going to pay James McAvoy to show up for 5 seconds.
Yeah, maybe. But I think most importantly, it was probably that they didn't want cooler characters to overshadow Deadpool in his own movie.
No, I don't think they would have because this movie's just so Deadpool, but I get that.
Yeah.
That point.
Well, if you have Wolverine showing up too much.
Well, if he's in one scene, I think it would have been great. And I wanted it to be a post-credit scene, but we didn't get it.
You know who else they got in 5 seconds?
What's that?
Stan the Man Lee.
Yeah.
Of all people, of all movies, showing up in the strip club. As the DJ.
Yeah.
Love ain't free, but you can rent it. Or you can't buy love, but you can rent it for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, I'll never hear that Flo write a song.
Too in this movie too.
That's true.
There's a lot of boobs.
Oh, it's fine with me.
Yeah,
I like boobs.
Well, there's a lot of boobs, and then there's a fight scene where Ryan Reynolds is naked.
Yeah,
and then, it shows his ass 3 times before that. It's like Jesus.
Right. It's like there was
everything is gratuitous in this movie. The language, the violence, the nudity.
I'll be in this movie
very Deadpool.
Only if I can have my ass show 3 times. And even at one point. He's very grizzled up, after this after the trauma he's endured. And it's still Ryan Reynolds' abs the whole time.
Yeah. He's still ripped.
Yes, the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh well, shit. Just you should have just showed up at the end and taken off the mask and your shirt.
You're like, I still got the bod.
I still got the abs, baby. The ab pools.
Oh, and the way he sort of died when in that fight scene with Ajax at the beginning where he put that big rebar through him. Oh, that was brutal.
Only when he comes to and he comes out of the
he's got
pile,
a scar on his chest.
Does he?
Yeah.
He just doesn't have the rod in him anymore.
I don't know. It melted in the
just
fire.
Melted right off. But that was the one thing I remember. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, that's the thing that took you out of it.
Out of the whole, I was right back in right after that though. I'll never hear that Flo write a song the same way of Stanley in the strip club.
I just remember you leaning over and saying to me when the DMX song was on, you're like, can you ever imagine Colossus walk into this song the DMX song was playing? It's just I never would have pictured that in a million years.
You know what? I think it just came to me why they used that. Yes.
Yeah.
X going to give it to you.
Yeah, it's clever.
As an X-Men.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah, it's great.
I just got that. That's great. Right on the podcast. That's great.
I had seen it in I think it was in a TV spot, or saw it on my computer or something. Yeah. But the thing when Angel Dust jumps off the thing, he's like, superhero landing, superhero. I saw that before.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
That was really funny.
Oh, that's funny. That's something my dad has even pointed out. He's like, I'm so tired. We were watching Ant-Man. Yeah. And actually, in Ant-Man, when he drops down off of the ant and does this cool guy landing, it's like, I get it. They're trying to make Ant-Man cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with it, but I didn't even notice it really until my dad was like, God, they do that anymore in every one of these movies. And Deadpool even says that. He's like, they do that all the time. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he would.
Really?
Get it? Maybe.
I think he would like that they're poking fun at it. Maybe,
sure,
but
at least that moment of the whole 2 hours.
Just show him that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm in.
Just show him that clip.
He's gonna go buy a Deadpool
sticker. I love the part where he's like, that's not easy to do, and he's like, it's terrible on your knees, and he's completely impractical.
Yeah. That is pretty good.
I love it. He's clapping for the villain when she does it.
Dude, I actually want to go see this again now.
Yeah, it was great.
And we saw it in IMAX, my first IMAX experience.
You were right though. It's very loud.
It was so loud. It was frighteningly loud.
Yeah.
But you know what? Other than that, when the punches came, they hit hard. It didn't pull any punches, metaphorically and literally, non-metaphorically. Yeah, spiritually, emotionally, all the above. I give this movie 10 out of 10.
Okay.
That might change over time. I liked
For me,
I like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 a lot more.
Yeah, I was
when I first
thinking
saw
about that, and like as far as Marvel movies go, like I think it's so hard because I always forget about the Spider-Man movies because they're like so long ago. But it's right for me. It's right up. I don't think it's like surpassed everything by any means, but like my top ones are like Iron Man, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Avengers, and probably the first Spider-Man. I feel like this one's like right up there with it. Like, I don't know that, like you said, it might change over time.
It's very fresh.
Might shift. Yeah, it's hard to know just coming out, but
you know, one thing you can't take away from it, whether it holds up over time or not, when you watch it,
I think it'll hold up. It's just a matter of like where it'll stack up amongst the other movies.
And it's the thing. It's on its own wavelength. It does its own thing.
It's the funniest superhero movie I've ever seen.
Ever.
Yeah.
Hands down, it's the funniest.
Probably won't be one to top it unless Deadpool 2 is funnier.
It's a subgenre within the overall superhero movie concept. It's a superhero comedy,
right? And
it fully embraces the fact that it's ridiculous. And so I think by that merit, you can only judge it based on one thing. It was fun.
The closest comedy to superhero like movie would be Guardians. Other than that, like,
sure.
You know,
and I would watch a movie. I was thinking that during the movie at one point. I was like, I would watch a movie of Deadpool and Rocket Raccoon and Groot hanging out at a bar.
That would be cool. Yeah,
for 2 hours. I mean, that would be great, shooting people up. But I had fun the entire time, and that's all it comes down to for me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna see it again. It's just a matter of how soon. I don't know yet.
Yeah,
but I definitely will. All right, before we get out of here, I've got a few comics to recommend. Like I said, I haven't actually read a Deadpool comic yet, but I do own one of my recommendations, which is Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe.
Oh yeah,
one of those crazy one shots that they do. I mean, not really a one shot, but you know,
I need to borrow that from you.
Just sort of a weird story that's just, you know, not really in continuity, but it's just a fun thing of him just killing all your favorite heroes.
You actually just heard me say I'm going to borrow a Deadpool comic. It's one thing I've never said.
I've also heard that the 2013 run of Deadpool sort of like reinvigorated the character, and it's Jerry Duggan and
Kelly?
Brian Posehn. Joe Kelly was before that, actually.
Okay.
But I hear that's really good as well.
That's the main one I think of, but the Dugan, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then I had read that an Uncanny X-Force is a big part of Deadpool's comic continuity for sure. So
doesn't Cullen Bunn do stuff? I feel like Cullen Bunn has done Deadpool stuff.
Yeah,
really.
I think a lot. That's the thing about Deadpool is it's just gone through tons of different writers over the years. So that's why it's so like wild and like the origins always changing.
Yeah,
it's very crazy.
It's very nuts.
Yes. Definitely go. Well, I was going to say go out and see this movie, but if you've just listened to this podcast, we've spoiled most of the movie for you. So hopefully you've already seen it.
Yeah.
But go see it again because it deserves it. It's awesome, and I fully support this movie.
We're going to go watch the movie again right now, guys. I think that concludes.
I don't think I can take it right this second.
I think
my head may explode.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go grab a chimichanga. I don't know about you. But I think that concludes our Deadpool episode, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Always catch us on Twitter at Longbox Office. Let us know what you thought of this episode and any other episode. And always rate, comment, and like us, and subscribe on iTunes. It's free every week, guys.
Clickety-clow. That's a really subtle David Pell reference. Anyway, I'm Sky.
I'm Matt.
Until the next clobbering time.
Flame off.
All